Tonight, put together some slides, called it Fun with Ember Addons. The goal here is to take you from you're out of your element, walk into an Ember Addon, you don't know what's going on, there's new folders, there's new whatever, you try things, it doesn't work the way you want. That often causes things like this to happen. And so we're going to go from that to I got this, I can make an Ember Addon, or at least I can check one out that I'm using, and I can link it up with my current project, and I can debug it on the fly so that I can figure out whether I'm not using the add-on right or the add-on's got a bug. So that's the goal for tonight. So who am I? Name's Chris Bonser. I'm an electrical engineer. I did hardware with Joe for years. And I've turned programmer. I have 4 kids, 6, 4, 2, and 6 months. They're all girls. And there's their smiling faces. And so basically when I'm not writing code, I chase them around, or they chase me around, or something like that. So I have a Twitter thing, but I don't really do the Twitters, so send it and maybe I'll notice it. But I am on the Ember Slack channel and the Austin developers Slack channel, so you can get me there. I'm responsive there. So I work at Chorus. To give you a feel for what Chorus is, I think if you've been out in the industry for a long time, you've probably worked at a company that's had some organizational health issues. You maybe work on projects that get abruptly canceled, or you don't know why you're doing what you're doing, or your team has some objective and then your team in the cube next door has a conflicting objective. And if you've ever led a team or led a large organization, you have like the herding cat scenario. How do you get everybody aligned? Once they're aligned, how do you execute? How do you get feedback from the team? All that. So Chorus aims to solve those problems, to make companies really well run. And we do that by making sure the leadership knows that the right stuff's getting done, that people who are contributing know how they fit into the big picture. And then the goal is for the business to become predictable through weekly predictive insights. And so maybe easiest just to show what that looks like, and I'll do that real quick. So this is an example of the performance dashboard that our company provides. This is a test company, so the data looks wonky. But imagining you had a goal called Enhance Out-of-the-Box Initiatives at the corporate level, the CEO could sit down every week and see this heat map of the crowdsourced feedback for whether the goal is going to be successful or not. And they can see how likely the goal is to be achieved and what the quality is going to be like, and they can come in here and they can filter it down and look at the different feedback from the employees, and look at comments and respond to comments and do stuff like that. So so I don't know, I could talk for Chorus a long time. That's not why we're here. If you're interested, there is info on our website. We are hiring Ember devs and looking for a senior backend Rails developer. Grab me afterwards or email careers@Chorus. So why make an add-on? We'll get into the meat of the talk. How many people have made an add-on before? Like 25%. How many of you have published it and have it on live? Yeah? Sort of? Yeah. Okay. So how many people have used an add-on? There we go. How many people have had a problem with an add-on and were able to check it out and link it to their app and kind of debug it? Sort of, some head nods. Okay. So there may be some repeat info for folks here, or there'll be some fresh stuff. If you have questions, fire them at me, and if I don't know them, someone smarter in the room will answer. So there's 2,400 Ember add-ons in NPM, and it keeps growing. I think that's good speaks to the strength of the community. Ember Observer is a really helpful way to go find add-ons. There's over 30 different categories that they have on there. So there's lots of reasons to go make an add-on, and you can do lots of different stuff. There's a section in the docs called scenarios, and it's a lot of text, so I'm not going to bring it up, but you can do lots of different stuff with add-ons. And so It's a huge topic. We can't cover it all here. Tonight, I'd like to focus on just let's make an add-on, create a component, get a feel for where all the files go, where the magic of Ember CLI comes in, and as part of that, we'll get a little teaser for maybe some of the places where you can do some more advanced stuff with the add-ons. So as far as how, the Ember CLI docs are actually really good on this. And there's a lot of text in the section developing blueprints and add-ons. Lots of text. And you can spend many hours reading and pondering over this. So I'd like to boil down and just, pick off some of the key stuff for you guys tonight. So the how is actually pretty simple. Ember init add-on name, create a folder, build the add-on file structure in there. You have to npm install, so you may have a birthday before it's done. When it's done, you will have an add-on. And the first thing you're going to think is, what the file structure? There's a bunch of files that look really familiar from an Ember app. You have app, public, test, vendor. There's some configuration files that all look very familiar, but some of them have a little bit different use and meaning in the add-on. So you got to kind of take your, Ember app hat off and put on the add-on hat. There's also some new folders in here, like add-on and test support. So you look at that and you're probably like, okay, I put my stuff in the app folder, right? And the answer is sometimes. Other times that causes this. So let's, run the Ember generator, see what it does for us. And you're going to see for generating a component, you've got a couple of stuff in the add-on folder, which is our component that we're building is called, really simple, it's called Magic Button. And then there are templates in the add-on folder. And then you also have a component in the app folder. So let's dig into that and figure out why. I'm going to say this several times during the talk, so it kind of sinks in. But add-on, that's the namespace of the add-on. App is the namespace of the consuming application, right? So you put stuff in add-on, that's got its own namespace. You put stuff in app, that's going to get merged right into the consuming app's namespace. So, so we're going to use another new file that's in the add-on. It's in test. There's a folder called dummy. And so we're going to use the dummy app in the add-on first to kind of see how app, what happens when you put stuff in app versus add-on, and then we'll go to actually consuming it in an add-on. So I put the links here for future reference. It's almost silly, simple project to keep variables out of the equation for us, but you can pull down the add-on, and I have a consuming app as well. So okay, so here's our add-on. I've already checked it out. I already ran a init for you, so we don't have to wait on npm. And if we look in app components Magic Button, we see something a little different here from your standard app. So we're exporting something that we import from the namespace of our add-on out of components Magic Button. Was that a hand-raised question? Okay. So if we look in the add-on folder, components, Magic Button, here's our actual component. So by default, the generators, what they do is they give you space to create your component in the app's namespace in the add-on folder, and then it gets imported in the app's namespace file so that it, by default, is available in your templates in your consuming app. But what's cool about this, and I'll show you how to do this in a second, is you're still able to import from the add-on namespace so that you can extend the components in an add-on really easily, right? So I will show you what that looks like in a second. What else was I going to talk about on this slide? Yeah, so let's go ahead and show you using the dummy app, what it looks like to extend the default component. So I'm going to fire up the Ember server, and this is within the add-on. And what this is doing is this is booting the dummy app that's in our test folder. So test dummy. Look at that. There's an add-on. So I've got the add-on fired up. That's old stuff. Sorry. We'll reload that. Okay. Welcome to Ember. Our add-on is just a button, and you press it, and a second later it flips back. So make the magic happen. Again, super simple. So let's say our product manager comes back to us and says, you know what, that's not enough magic for me. I need 3 seconds of magic, right? So most of our users of the add-on only want 1 second of magic. So let's extend our component so that only in our app do we have 3 seconds of magic. So ember g or generate component magic button. We can call it the same as the component in the add-on. And then you want to do -- dummy because we want to generate the component in the dummy app and not in the add-on. Okay, so run the add-on, and we're not actually going to, since we only need to extend the delay property on our component, we don't need to override the template. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete the template that it generated for me. And if we go look at our app, it's not doing anything because we haven't done anything with the new. Oh yeah, because it's trying to bring in the template we just deleted. So let's go look at the file that it generated for us. You can see it's importing that layout I just deleted. We want to use the layout that is provided by the add-on namespace, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And now the dummy app should render, but there's nothing here. And that's because our component doesn't do anything. It's not actually importing and extending our component yet. So let's import our component from the magic button namespace, components. We'll delay for 3 seconds. So with that, we have extended our component only in our app, and now the users of our add-on still get 1 second of magic, and we get 3 seconds of magic in our app. So what's neat about this is if you've pulled in a component into your app and you've used it in a dozen different places, and you now want to extend that, it's really simple, right? You go into your app, you generate a component of the same name, you import the namespaced component that's generated in the add-on, and then boom, you've got these new behaviors in your component throughout your app. So whereas if you had defined your component directly in the app namespace in the add-on, you'd have nothing to import, and therefore you couldn't kind of work this kind of magic. So very handy. Moving on. So I think that it really helps to kind of illustrate the app versus the add-on. If you want your users to be able to extend your component, do it in app, do it in add-on, do it the way the generator does it, right? Do it in the add-on, and then just do an import in the app namespace. If you don't want your users to be able to extend the component, then define it in an app, right? So I probably beat that one to death now, but it comes back around. So when we go look at how do you do styles in an add-on, it's kind of the same game. Does it go in add-on? Does it go in app? And the choices there are still defined by, do you want an add-ons namespace or the consuming apps namespace? So escape. So let's now pull our add-on into consuming app. So I've already checked that out. checked one out. I called it Fun with Add-ons. I've added magic button to the package file. Notice I've put no version or a GitHub link or anything because I'm acting like I haven't pushed this to GitHub yet. I just have it locally. So how do we work with it in this state? So we do that by leveraging npm. So I put a link to the docs here to npm link, but it's really pretty simple. We go to our add-on folder and we run npm link. I lost where I was. Here we go. And you're going to see it does, I think, a symlink to connect our add-on to the, what do you call it? The node, the global, sorry, there's the word. The global node modules. And then you go into your app and say npm, if I can spell it, magic button. That's a fun error. We did magic button, yes. Oh, I was, sorry, I was in the wrong, I was actually still in the folder for our add-on, and so if you do that, that's the error you get. So back in the folder for our app, it works as promised. You see it just linked kind of our local node modules here to the one we had. So now we can do Ember server, and it'll fire up our app and you can only have one server running at a time. So while it's firing up, you can also set up your add-ons so that as you're instrumenting like somebody else's add-on or you're developing your own, it'll live reload your consuming app. And you do that by going to, there's an index.js file in the add-on, and you add this isDeveloping add-on property in there. So I've already set that up for us, but just so you know, I'm not messing with you, there it is. So our app's up. You know, we still have our button. It's now in the consuming app. If we modify the magic button to just make it look different, we'll see our app live reload, and there's our change. So it's, you know, it makes developing add-ons really fast. You can either do them against like the dummy app, or you can consume them straight into the app that you're working on, and you get that nice live reload, and the workflow is really nice. This is super helpful, especially if you're debugging somebody else's add-on or just trying to understand how it works. You've pulled it down locally, you set up the live reload, and now you get in there and you instrument it, you get the updating. It's wonderful. I'm not going to walk through this, but just like we did with the dummy app, you can go to your app and then extend our magic button component. It feels almost identical to the dummy app. It's fairly painless. We made a component. We now want to add some style sheets to that, and it feels like the style story if you like Google around about how to do styles and add-ons. It's can be a little confusing. There's several different ways of doing it. People argue different ways. So first, a little anecdote. The other day, my 6-year-old comes out and goes, "That doesn't match, Dad." And I'm like, "What? This looks fine." She's like, "Well, it's not my fashional." I'm like, "Fashional is not even a word." And she gives me the look of death, and then I go change. So get some style. Here we go. So I'm gonna walk through a couple different ways of doing this. To import CSS, I found some advice in this link here. You can go read it. But basically said put it in the app namespace, app folder, but namespace it. So we're putting it in the app folder, which means what? It's in the consuming apps namespace, right? So which means in your your app.css file in the main app, you can import it right there. But if you don't namespace it and you call it like app styles variables or something, right? The consuming app might also have a variables file, and now they got a problem using your add-on. So fairly easy to avoid that. You just namespace it. And then in the consuming app, just add import, however you namespace that, and the name of the file. I put a tag here to that little set of example projects. You could go mess with that. I'm not going to bore you though. So another way, let's say you're using Sass. There's a couple of ways to approach dealing with styles with Sass and add-ons. One way is where you want to import some compiled Sass, right? You want to compile the Sass and just get the CSS. So in that case, you put it in the add-on style. So now it's in your app namespace. It's going to compile separately from your app. There's some actually pretty good little blurb of instructions that I've linked to here at Ember CLI Sass docs. But eventually, if you follow these instructions, it'll compile right into your consuming apps like vendor CSS. So it's great because it compiles separately, maybe not so great. The user can't choose to import it or not. They just get it. So another way to approach this is to import the precompiled Sass into your app. So you would do that, unsurprisingly, by putting it in the consuming app namespace, which is the app folder. Again, it's not a bad idea to namespace that. And then the plus side of this is the consuming app can now use the power of Sass to change variables and this and that. So one library that uses that, I think, to good effect is Ember Paper. Their styles live in app styles. They also have a number of their variables are set to a default style. So if you import something in your app that sets some variables, you basically you're getting to override their kind of defaults and customize the way Ember Paper looks. And we've been using this add-on for a while. It works really nice. So that's a pretty, I think, a pretty healthy pattern to follow. And then last thing with styles and add-ons is if you want to style your dummy app, do that in the dummy app. So tests, app, styles in the dummy app. One thing I will say it's interesting with add-ons is the Ember CLI build, which is in the base file directory of your add-on. So let's look at it this way. This guy is there to configure your dummy app, right? It's not there to configure the add-on. And so if you're wanting to import like Bootstrap or something to make your dummy app look nice, you're going to be doing that here. I think I have a different add-on checked out where I've done that. So here we go, like I'm pulling in Bootstrap and Font Awesome to use to style the dummy app. So again, another spot with developing an add-on where kind of the conventions you're used to on like your main app are just a little bit different, and you need to be aware. So so I kind of touched on this a little bit, but there's config files that are a little bit different. Ember CLI builds for configuring the dummy app. The index.js is the add-on entry point, and there's some pretty good docs here for the add-on hooks that are available. that lets you do a lot of kind of wild and crazy stuff. You can add content to the app. You can add stuff to like, anyway, you could do a lot of things. I'll let you read the docs there because it's a wild tangent. Maybe one interesting example here. So again, looking at Ember paper, they have hammer.js as a Bower dependency, so you find it in their Bower JSON. In their default blueprint, which is kind of another thing for the add-on, you see a couple of fun things in here. So in the after install hook, they're adding Bower packages to the project. So this will add the Bower packages to the consuming app. And then they have add packages to project to add Ember CLI SaaS, and that actually will add that to your consuming apps package.json. So this is a lot of the add-ons that like wrap around existing libraries, like they will do this for you, and it's makes them pretty convenient. And then in the index.js, they go ahead and import it for you, right? So they added it as a dependency in Bower or package files, and then they import it for your app so you can use it. So a couple more things. Testing. It's just like a normal app. There's not a lot of exciting things here, except acceptance testing runs against the dummy app. And then when you get to actually go share and publish your app, publish it to Git, and then there's some npm tools to get it published to npm. No real surprises here. There's a little gist here that has like the 4 commands to follow. One thing I'll say is a number of apps are using like GitHub pages, and they're actually putting the built version of the dummy app up as they're both documentation and code example. And it's really nice and also super easy. So it's this gem makes it a piece of cake. Or not gem, sorry, add-on. Add the add-on. There's like 2 or 3 commands to run, and then they have an Ember, like Ember generate. They have a similar thing there that'll build the GitHub pages, and then you just push it up, and it's there. So, anyway, that's kind of the rush through bits and pieces of building an Ember add-on. How do you create a component? How do you deal with the different folders? A little bit into the configuration file. There's a lot more depth to that. One thing I'll say, I'll run through one add-on that we've built and just published recently, and why it was helpful to have one and to do it. It's called Ember Accordion, and we're all probably familiar with an accordion, like jQuery UI has one, Bootstrap has one. It's just this simple little deal here where you click on an item, it opens and it closes its peers. Very simple. Ours needed to be a little more complicated. We needed to be able to have, in some cases, have more than one item open. Each item maybe could have multiple kind of toggle points and multiple panels. And then we needed a way so that if we had a component that was rendered into a panel, it could bubble up an action to the accordion and say, hey, I need you to close. We needed to be able to nest them. So what that ended up looking like to us is something that doesn't actually even look or feel like, you wouldn't know it's an accordion when you're looking at it. So going back to our performance dashboard, this over here is actually our Ember accordion at work. And you can see there's this toggle panel where you see some general information. There's this one where you see comments. If I go in here and I add a new comment, it closes the accordion, tells this other component that needs to go ask for new data so that it reloads. We needed something. So we went and built this add-on. Actually, initially, embarrassingly enough, It was just like in-app jQuery spaghetti. Nasty, right? And that list of requirements kind of grew as our design evolved, right? So it started out just, we'll just use a little jQuery here, we'll modify some classes directly, and it'll all be okay. And then requirements grew, the code turned into spaghetti, it was impossible to maintain. So we built a version of Ember Accordion as an add-on. And the reason is we have a bunch of these places in our app where we're doing this. It was a lot faster to iterate and figure out what like kind of the design pattern of this component should look like separately from our app. So the first version of it, we had like these very tightly coupled components, and it was really verbose, but it worked, so we threw it in our app. And then we iterated a couple times before we imported it back into our app. The second time we got to a little bit slimmer of an API. We decoupled the components. We did some action currying to allow stuff in a panel to close the accordion. And then version 3, which we brought back into our app, we got very slim on the API through the use of some services. And I think it's not perfect, but I'm pretty happy with it. And so we took the time to bring it back into our app. So there's a link to it here. You guys can go check it out if you need it. So anyway, crash course on add-ons. I tried to do the slides with links to documentation so that if you want to go sit down later this week and give it a try, I can get you over some of the stumbling points. But questions? Yeah.
So with those different versions, do you have any learning points from like what you would have done? Would you have done different versions earlier, or like basically when do you add on? When do you make an add-on?
Yeah, I don't know. For me, if you have something that you're using in a lot of places in the app and the requirements keep changing on you, that's a great candidate to pull it into an add-on, because you can iterate on it apart from the app, and then when it's healthy and you like what it's doing, you can bring it back into your app. So this fit the bill because requirements kept shifting, and it was good for that. So.
Is there actually a way to go backwards and say, okay, have like a directory in your actual app and like put all the add-on stuff in there, and then kind of iterate inside of your same repo until you get to a point to where you're like, okay, this is now stable enough that I'm okay with like pulling it out into its own repository and making an add-on out of it.
Yeah, there is something that's called an in-app add-on. And it's in the docs on the Ember CLI page that I linked to. There's a section on there on how that works and how it's a little bit different than a normal add-on. So it's another rabbit hole that I didn't have time to get to, but yeah, it's pretty well thought out. Other questions? Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody.